Sanje Jodang Zoji Jono La Shanja Bada Dana Japsum Je Daga Shenzo Jibe Tonum Je Dola Benjo Zanje Draba Sho Sanje Jodang Zoji Jono La Shanja Bada Dana Japsum Je Daga Shese Chishe Jibe Tonum Je Dola Benjo Zanje Draba Sho Sanje Jodang Zoji Jono La Shangche Bada Dana Jazam Je Daga Chishe Jibe Tonum Je Dola Penjara Sanje Draba Sho. Good morning again.
Good morning, Geshe.
Good morning, Geshe.
Morning, Geshe.
Good morning, Geshe.
Good, looks good, you guys.
Morning, Geshe.
Morning. Anyway.
Morning, good morning.
Morning. It is wonderful to see we are able to come together again. We are able to pray together. We are able to practice together. Every day we come together. It's really like Kadamba masters. They rejoice. Oh, I'm able to survive today. Because you feel, I'm very glad to survive today means you recognize your today's precious human life. In other words, many things you can sleep, but you cannot get up. Maybe you can get up, but you cannot not go to sleep properly. This is like nature of the permanent, not something to different things come in, but we don't really recognize. But main things also, our mind is very connection with the delusions. It's very hard to put into the practice, right? It's most difficult is for us that we know things, what's right, what's wrong, what to do, what to not to do. But when the situation coming, we just go to the same direction. It's for everyone. Therefore, it's very hard for everyone to put into practice. Then also very easy to follow the delusions, wrong thoughts, wrong views, wrong ideas. The delusion minds very powerful for everyone. But we just remember, then try to as much as we can to every day. Therefore, like that, okay? Okay, I forgot we have to do a little meditation. Okay, we're going to do the common body meditation. First, just to relax your body, as whatever you sit. Then to breathing meditation like a couple times, bring in, out to become, the breathing meditation is like one of the technique to, is keep our mind more relaxed, okay? I do first time the bell, you can start to breathing meditation. The second time to meditation, the Kama body, as we doing this in maybe almost many months now. You don't have to say every day, so to some image, maybe Buddha image or whatever you're doing, then try to focus the clear of the object as much as you can, okay? How's it? Looks you guys very serious. Okay, now second one, try to the 7 different how you call this?
7-point mind training.
Yeah, 7-point mind training. We'll go one by one, just a little bit, okay? Few minutes. We're almost done there. You can go to everyone, okay? Okay. Okay. Therefore, it's no one's perfect. We try to our best. Don't be, discourage yourself. As much as we can, we try to every day at the best. Like then we just go finish it our lives. Like sometimes up, sometimes down, sometimes up, sometimes down. Then one day, then finish it like that. Okay. Therefore, it's good to every day. You can spend like 5 minutes. Guidelines for the 7-point mind trainings to little bit, one by one, to something to soak your mind. Maybe you're not able to think for all the details, but you can try to do something yourself to more small, okay? Just try to every day. Like that. Oh yeah. Okay. Then right now we are what we have to do, right? The samayas or commandments, I don't know how you call this. Like that. Then we are on the numbers. Now, which number do you remember?
Number 16 is the next one. Don't practice sporadically.
Okay. That's good. Yeah. 당한도 쇼치니 강들 믹스에게 니바 톰베게 아니 다 냠뇽다 냠레체 마토바나 간지 바사 야보지 텐데 샤기요래
So even if we are not able to practice, to get all the results, from whatever practice that we're doing, but at least we leave strong imprint in our minds, definitely.
아니 제자 아니 나랑서 샘데 아니 다 직접 도마 매반에 뉴모다 바 곰대요 완자 아니 뉴모다 갑대 짜야 돼 칸에 라야 된 건서 사말레라고 요래 이나야 오늘 라레다 때페 칼카오 요래.
Since we are so accustomed, with the delusion since beginner's lifetime, it is very difficult, to go against those delusions. Although it is easy to say by mouth that, oh, delusions are bad and so forth, but to really, go against it and to see it as really bad and to overcome it is pretty difficult.
어제서 다 인바이나 간들 나라서 삼래야 대바요래 무바요래 도나요래 아니 근데 소소가 텁텁치와이나 아니 지 간제 샘결하죠 어서와 토마오도 로나 소만에 간제 다지 소소 내가 지와이나 아니 디 린톨라 마테베 텐데가도 르브지 톱거리.
But we still have, confidence in ourselves, and we have faith in the Dharma, belief and faith in the Dharma. And because our mind, the nature of the mind is clear light, and it can, and the delusions are just temporary there, and it can be erased. Therefore, if we do, practice, as much as we can, then definitely, eventually, slowly, not right away or immediately, but slowly, we will be able to overcome the delusions.
오케이. 다 디나네. 단들이는 아니 지금 점제 텀발라다 감소 믹스가 깔리 잡고와 삼로 땅거와 아니 뒤에 땅거 같은데 요서와.
And so to get the results, of our practice, we do have to spend a lot of time, make strong effort, and do the practice continuously, to get the results.
뭐 제가 다 대단한 것도 주룩 받대. 내가 렌조 문제 있어야 돼. 다들에도 그 삼삼 냠내 채워지, 삼삼 맞춰지. 니마까지 두쇼 잡더니 유샤와 근데 맞지 했을거든.
And the 16th one, it says, do not be erratic. So do not be erratic, like irregular, when you're doing the practice. Do it in a normal, in a same pace. Not like, doing so strongly at some point and then not doing at all other point.
제가 아니 그래서 지금 소소고 다 냠뇽 거 점제 냠내 집에 점제양 다 갈래까지 토거래에서 아무도 니마 가시에다 나와 가시에다 로카시가 이제 왔던 거 삼나 아니 갈래까 오래서.
So like I said, the practice has to be done consistently, for long period of time. Then, of course, we'll be able to achieve the result. Otherwise, if we just do practice for some time and expect to have the results right away, and it's not possible. Like just by practicing a couple of days or a couple of months or even a year, we cannot expect to have the results right away.
제가 아닌데 남지 스페셜리스트도 미장다스 미장시선까지 미타림보 파다스와.
So like it said in the text, it says, look, far away.
다 나진 게 아니 이자 계산까지 간지 sembo 삼았다다 되어 봐. 간지 점제대 타림보 진에서서 소야게 상당히 오래스.
Likewise, also, distant your mind means like, have your mind to think that, oh, the results, are far away, so I'll be able to achieve that eventually. Not right away, I won't get there right away, but eventually, because it's kind of far away, I will eventually get there like that.
아니 공산료선다까지 간지 다 sembachi 그냥 보는 올라가 메도.
And then have your mind kind of I think maybe it's saying kind of relaxed.
어제 다 던데지까지 아니 지금 잠 마셔봤지 렐레지 아니 미자람보 때네 아니 로용 아니 쇼르데 쇼르시바이나 아니 소소가 좀 통거래지.
And so keep the goals and the expectation of the goals at the distance, and then continuously do the practice. Then eventually we will be able to achieve the results.
제가 간지 소소소라지 딱 릴럼도 소군도 다데 빼깔카오도 나도 제도고면도.
And so like setting a rules or a discipline for oneself, to do practice for a certain amount of time or at a certain day of the time and so forth. So, we have to keep on following those rules or disciplines that we have set for ourselves. Sometimes, of course, it's very difficult for us to go with those rules that we set for ourselves, right?
재산대에서는 가서 배는 3대 육가라다 가서 소소소소라 지 첨다고 샤니 저기 완다 kon 3대 대바라 kon 야보로 차리 걸어.
So like when we're doing retreat, we set a time, right? We set, this time for the session. So it's like the first session I'm going to do for this long, second session, third session, fourth session, like that. You set a time and you do it. So during that time, it sort of becomes good, right?
제다가 다 대나지는 것도 제통마다 남주다 소소고 지 가 톱톱 간지 단 냠내제데 이거 마셔봐지. 아니 대소소고 첨다고서 대강 톱톱이 제와이나 다 첨대 통계서로 봐.
So when we set a session's time like that and then do it intensely, then of course, we'll get the results. So even at the end of the retreat, we feel like more peace and, calm and relaxed like that. So that's the result of having done the practice. So like that, if we can continuously do that kind of, intensive practice, every day in the everyday life, then of course, we'll be able to achieve the results pretty quickly. But of course, we're not able to do that like that or every day, right? Just like we do in a retreat, we can't do it on an everyday basis. So therefore, it is difficult, to get the results right away like that.
다들 다 집든 바테 가로다. 아니 도주도 좀 와서리 말해.
네.
단 네가 가르나 배남 빼라고 시작한다 왔어. 멤버도 샤지 당반다 나사 강 여바대야. 그 따다 드니 박딱 랜도 여러 뒤서는 것이. 간지 수수고 냠내 가래 제와이나. 지금 제대 때서 지금 띵사번호 이게 대체 뭐게 대체 참 마셔가지고 드네로 많이 받드네로 라면도.
And then the 17th one, it says is train wholeheartedly. So like, doing the practice, and training with the confidence, like a doctor, when they do the surgeries, they can't do it, if they're not sure what they're supposed to do, right? They have to have a confidence, and to do the surgery and what kind of a disease are they supposed to remove and where they're supposed to cut. They have to be very confident with that, just like that, I think.
Okay. 그래서 간지 제가 소소도 지냠내 집에 가봐야 다 냠내라 너무 채한다고. 지 소소 셈래야 바본다고. 아니 소소야 셈라 드라잉도 원도. 드리려나 대랑 셈내 않고 달라 주자고 그래서 봐지.
And so like when you're doing a practice, when you're doing some certain kind of practice, if you find yourself confidence in doing that and then find very comfortable and doing that, then you should just hold on to that practice and keep on doing for as long as as long as it's required.
그렇지. 어디지? 다 아니 줍듯이 다 좁제 바데 다 밀까지. 도신 이제 타오르 장사지. 강들 아니 누모 강 쳐왔더라. 갑자기 따고 산도 있어로.
그래, 다른 이사.
또 봐도 좁아니라.
똑전 이사. 또 봐도 좁아니라.
야.
비슷해서.
제가 대거는 아직 누모 강슈 쳐왔더라야. 님보 땡도 고고 산도 되는 말도.
So then the 18th one, it says be literated by two, the examination and analysis. So those are the two. So so whatever delusions, so examine whatever delusions is more stronger or strongest in your mind, and then you should work against that by analyzing where this delusion comes from. What kind of object provokes that delusion and so forth.
안도서 빼 깔래 가오르와 간제 뇨모 강 슈치와디 want 같은 거도 쇼로도.
So it's very difficult, right? This is the against, so because we get pulled to do things by the strongest delusions, right? And so here it is saying that first, you have to overcome the strongest delusion. Usually we are pulled, to do things wrong by the strongest delusions, and then analyze where that strongest delusion is coming from, like objects, that induces, these delusions, to arise, and then work against that. So it's saying that, but of course, it's very difficult for regular people, normal people like us, because we are usually driven by the strongest delusions, right?
어떻게 아니 다 쪼그바데 다 유마 검사 단가 다 유마 시사대로 소소 미젠지 된다고 내가 제나 같이 될라 양에 장한테 제와 인스 다 유시해요 말했어.
So, and then the 19th one is it says do not overemphasize, but it's like saying do not show off. Like if you have done something, then you want to show people, oh, I did this, I did that, like show off. Oh, I did this for this person, or I did this for that person, like that. Show off.
제가 소소가 딩내네 섬제 탐조가 된다야 섬제도 대화다 된바 동화다 잡지 내가 제 소소 켈레 선바에서 다 소소가 같이 미션지 된다 내가 제와이나 telaya 유시해요 말했어.
So because when we generate the bodhicitta, you already made a commitment, to work for the benefit of all sentient beings, to gain enlightenment for the benefit of all sentient beings. So when you're doing something to benefit sentient beings, then there's nothing to show off about that, right?
제가 다들 쇼로다 다가지 시행도 쇼게 섬제다야 대화나 대회잖아. 근데 나도 칸에 랍대요.
But we just tend to like, oh, I did this, I did that. We tend to think like that, right? Even automatically. But otherwise, we're not. Of course, we're not supposed to think like that. We're not supposed to be so arrogant or proud, about that, because we already, made a promise, to work for them. And when we're working for them, then there's nothing to show off. Because we usually in the morning we always recite our prayers, right? So may all sentient beings be happy and possess the cause of happiness. May all sentient beings be free from suffering and be free from the cause of suffering, like that. So we'll always say that, right?
제상도 레간도 제나 아니 수수고다 아니 강라야 보스지 요이나 간지 디올레 내가 가지 담보 소소 내가 제게서 켈렌 사바인다 내가 내 제와인스 간지 대 유시해요 말했어 딘다오시.
And so like a job, when you're supposed to do the job that you are paid to do, then that's, you're already paid to do that, right? So you said, are you going to do that? You're going to be getting paid for that. So there's nothing to be so arrogant about that when you have done that job, right?
다 뉴스 되니까로 오다테 콜로마다스 되뉴스도 많이 다 뉴스 따지다 아니 뉴스 받을
anybody
뉴스 가들
뉴스 받을
다 뉴스 받으러
다 단단히 전당 가서 셔야 돼 주고 받을
알레레 다 뉴스 받에 아니 누구랑도 콜로마 도스나 간제 미망부 위세야 소소라 미치게 만배체와이나 다 텔레 콘트사요 말했어.
And then the 20th one is it says, do not get angry, like in the midst of many people. If somebody says bad thing to you or or criticizes you, then you should not get angry.
대도전에 다 대도를 해와치면도 미치 지나 재단 되는 분들한테 나도 콘트사고도.
And so instead, you should practice patience. But of course, it's not easy for normal people like us. When somebody says something bad or criticizes us, we immediately tend to get angry towards that person, right?
저때 두쇼라다 미치 지나 되는 분들 남나다 대도 가서 전에 나도 켈레 도면도 같이 지나 노조레스.
So that's the worst thing, right? We can't accept that. We can't accept the criticism. When somebody says, "Oh, what you did is wrong," or it's not right, then we immediately try to defend ourselves.
제가 단도조 너조의 재통이지 레바이나 땅도 냠랭 뭐니 띵 돈보도 보가로 렌도 서래.
So you can check yourself. If you are able to be patient, then you are pretty good practitioner.
오케이, 대치 되니시다 마시. 단지 다지디 간지 이쯤 뭐해서나 간지 젠타모 또 쇼와나 간지 가추주 두추주지요 말이스.
And the 21st advice, it says, do not be changeable, like be so easily changed, to be happy, or easily changed, to be sad. So just because of small situation or condition, you immediately become happy or immediately become sad like that. Don't be like that.
제단 대양 뱀무슨베 갈레카오도 대양.
And this is also very difficult to follow for regular people like us, right?
제단도서 증문에 냠내 야보지 제응이 통해 임바이나나 딱군 점점 야용서는 점점 누가 용서그리 된지 되게 중요해 때문에 답변하진으로 삼나 팽거서도 대표 남도 삼토면도.
So when these things happen, when something bad happened or something good happened, then not being very sad when something bad happened, not being very overexcited when something good happens, just taking it easy, whether it's good or bad, just saying, oh, this is, the way things are in the world, this is, how things are, it's nature of karma and so forth like that, just take it easily, not be overwhelmed by that, either by becoming too excited or by becoming too sad.
제가 제타모레죠 가초초 두초고 간지 약게 남다고 약게 남도 템보셔야 말이야. 다다 남 당대나 양 밥인 거예요. 다다 밥된 다다 당도 대 약게 남 시간도 오셔야 돼요.
Yeah, so it is. So it should do not be like changeable very easily by small condition, like a weather in the summertime or monsoon time. It changes very quickly. Right now it's sunny, and right in the next moment it's raining like that. It should not be like that.
제자네 다 단디갑도 가상 괜히 님아졌어 난지도 보자. 다 드리안 찬데 탈로당다고 자대도.
So like the weather these days, So 2 days ago it was like 90 degrees, so very hot, and now it's so cold again. Maybe looking to turn on the heats, right?
제자당 남주 샘다 아니 남식은 주동도 로요래다.
So our mind is very much like this weather.
제자이 마당은 가든베 요신이나 라이다다 텐데 마제에서 랍거다. 다들 냠네 제토면도.
So this is what the Kadamba masters are saying, to not do like that, not be like that.
다 강들 네 어디지? 다되지. 다 니슈 짠이 바데 아니 오치 마더를 사지다. 간지 다들 되나로 가이나. 간지 수수고 파치로 관도 시와이나 텔라야 레와 첨보치 마접서 면도.
So then the 22nd, and it says, do not wish for gratitude. So it's like when you're doing something good for others, don't expect, to be praised or to be, presented, with the gift and so forth like that.
제자네 다댕안도 가데나에 대야쇼도다 소소 파치 미실 록바제나 디기양 소소라 따다야 보지 연거열에 삼았다. 아니 지금 계좌야 보지 시작에 삼았다. 남주야 보지 땡에 삼았다. 내 몸 용도와.
That also we tend to fall under, right? Because when we do something good, when we do something good to others, and we always expect them to look in a good way to us, think of our kindness, and always praise about us like that, right? So if you have a friend, you have expectation for that friend to be always talk to you in a good way, talk about good things about you and like that. So that's the kind of wishing for gratitude.
다 님들이 로종은 냠는데 제타바이나 아니 다 단다 뉴망가이 디금도 이번에 간지 깽가 봐서나 상주걸 남도 좋도바이 연거레스 든지 다 강래야 셰데가 로종은 냠는 변전 드디 아니 소소 냠려야 보 제타바이나 다 딩이 뉴메 갑들에 소소 깽에들이 쇼마나 깽가 봐도 상주걸 남도 봐 좋도바이 연거레스.
So like that, if we are able to follow all these advices of the mind training, then we'll be able to convert, all the unpleasant or unfortunate circumstances into path to enlightenment. And so this lineage of the practice of mind training, was passed down from Lama Selingpa.
아니 kadambe 아니 기신 착각하게 배나 당가 산이 간에 희와에는 조바매 송아들이 중앙에 말했어. 간제 때 영화때 간제 로종은 냠래야 보충하다 대송도와.
So like Geshe Tenley, so at the end he said, if I were to die tomorrow, I'll have no regret. That means like he has done the mind training practice, fully. So like that, when we are able to do this kind of practice, then we will have no regret, even if we have to die the next day or next moment.
어제 다 되게 애는 가라서 이게 막다 계산 담보는 쉬대한 것도 로종 때인데 막 간지 네 값이야 아니 샹첩을 심 제단라 진짜 명아 되지고는 제단당 아니 다시 냠제고는 제단 니 옆에는 다 다시 냠제고는 제단 네 값라다 로종 때도 받아 도용도.
And so this completes the teaching on the practice of the mind training, the 7-point thought transformation or mind training. And so this came from the practice of generating the bodhicitta, among the two ways of generating bodhicitta, one through 7-fold cause and effect instruction, and then the one through equalizing and exchanging self with others.
제장한단 내가도 이름 보고도 막 대바래 남주나시다 로조 돈도 맞다 배작거나 술라야 로조 셴바요다 남도 막고 디디 요한자 너도 방아드네야 레레치네 당도 이름 본로 임바.
And so this section on the mind training came, from the part of generating bodhicitta through equalizing and exchanging self with others. So usually, it took us a very long time, and we stayed on this subject for a long time. Usually, there is a separate, set of teaching for the mind training itself, but because it came from there, and then it was included in that section, of generating bodhicitta through equalizing and exchanging self with others.
제대들 다 양조들만 거기 짜셔려고 제와이나 내려 로조 돈데면 냠내 집에 가래 당연하지 전에 배나 수수고 신내라고 금 우종은 조금 세바마트에서 레레치.
And so again, to review it, briefly, what we practice. So when you do the meditation or practice of the mind training, go through all this 7-point mind training, but before that, start with the relaxing your mind, by meditating on your breath, like doing the breathing meditation.
아니 되네다 수수고 사당 라마라야 소바답군도 다 간지 녜게 냠랜데 야포지 용와라야 아니 대단 냠바 남바 군데야 고송도지 전럽 나로나 나라 토당 틀레 나로나 세네 다 수수 셈기당이야 되레섬 당고서로.
And then in order for your practice to be successful or to be accomplished without any hindrances, you have to make a strong supplication or request to your guru deity to bless you to be able to do this practice without any hindrances.
대치 다된 이마치 다되네 다시네 다 로존된 거 통해서 땅문도 된지 추된 바세야 되는 문도 된지 추된 바세야 돼 간제 단전이야 간체와 맞다봐 아니 레전드 고빈이 무슨 다더라도.
And then after that, you do the preparatory practice. Preparatory practice includes this contemplating on the prophet human rebirth, the 8 layers, 10 endowments, and so forth, and then death and impermanence, and karmic law of cause effect, and then the renunciation and so forth.
제가 간들었다 간도 단단한도 고급 양보식 간제 수수 냠내치가 고급 아니 아버지 영만다 아니 된 촐라도 말로 제고도 삼배삼로시던데 고고도 그래서.
And so at this time, when we have this opportunity, the rare opportunity to do the practice, we should not, let it go let it go in a waste.
아니 드네 니바데 당기지 상적을 셈장와서다 다지네 저다 될라 아니 돈덤 상적을 셈장와다 아니 군도 상적을 셈장와 니용고와.
And then then coming to the actual mind generation or the bodhicitta, generating the bodhicitta, there's 2 bodhicittas to be generated, the ultimate bodhicitta and the conventional bodhicitta.
아니 다 간들 아니 돈덤 상적을 셈고서야돼 아니 동반이 고매다래.
And anyway, so meditating on the ultimate bodhicitta, is actually meditating on emptiness.
아니 다 군도 상적을 셈고한데 다 돈랭고 말이야. 돈랭고 고요래.
And the meditating on the conventional bodhicitta is meditating on the tonglen or taking giving.
다 대양 야만나 수수가 배나 데링 배나 공다 요하게 아니 동아들 단다 랑 용거 옆에 뭐 봤다와 야만나 수수가 배나 까디 제쇼 아니 파마 빈비자스나 되게 동아 쓸래 맞던 내지나 간지 렌트비아드 강하게 받을 줄래 아니 한테라 파타 아니 우중거랑 곰네 돈내니 뭐 빼마장 스트루신데 다 내가 진도 내자 니가 돈에 니 갑랭아도 셈나 진지와 된거 그래.
And so at this time, you do the practice of the tonglen, taking and giving. You start with taking from your side by your own your own suffering like say the suffering that you're going to experience later or tomorrow or next life, like that. You imagine taking all the suffering upon yourself right now. Or you can also start, with taking the sufferings, of your close ones, like your parents, or your siblings, and your friends, and then giving them the happiness. So this way, you do the practice, of the tonglen or taking and giving alternately, on the breath. As you breathe out, imagine giving them all the happiness they want, and when you breathe in, imagine taking all the sufferings from them.
근데 디리 갑라야 아니 수수 근데 현지 동아대 소소라 용네 대양 소소가나 대마다 같이 야 대양 봐 수수 닝도 나사대 닝가라 도도로 여sam다 티가라마도 줄로나 잡아가라 줄로나 아니 추대가 잡아도 마셔도 같은 데 같이 내가도 마셔대 아니 추단 잡아다 차다면 자르고 뒤손으로
And and then at that time, when you imagine taking, the sufferings and delusions, the cause of sufferings, from, your close ones or from other sentient beings and upon yourself, and imagine, it's not just sitting there, but imagine your self-grasping ignorance and self-choosing mind, very strong, solid at your heart. And that, like eyes, and then that, the sufferings and delusions from the other sentient being comes in the form of water. And then, like when you, pour water on the ice, what happens? Then the ice, that just melts into water, right? Like that. And imagine, all the, the water and all the delusions, of the sentient beings that you take, delusions and sufferings you take from others, and then your self-chasing attitude and self-grasping ignorance all gets, like melt, like just like melting the ice.
어제 어두 제가 보낸 겁네 야 간들 아니 한참도 수수 셈나 가와곰 아니 지 수수 깨지네 야 셈바만 보지라 펜톡 셈바나 가와곰 어드네도 간제다 니 갑라이지 아니 셈나 이와 통문이다 네 통곡이 살아.
And so then also you can rejoice, over your own virtue, the virtues in others, and you think about the virtues accumulated by others and rejoice over that. So you should, get a transformation, in your mind by doing these practices.
어디 아니 다 숨바데 깽이 상절놈도 저 와세 세대 다지 근데 가려 간증 알아서 다 챈데 챈데 대화에서 참도 기본 용도 참도 누가 용거를 참좀 단저 방을 참좀 참만 저 방거다 같이 되게 깨지는 소소가 냠내데 마셔와지 거래스.
And and then also, don't fall under the emotions, like the good or bad, whatever happens, in this life. Don't be overwhelmed or don't fall under that. Anything can happen in our life. Sometimes it will be good, sometimes it will be bad. So just be relaxed. Don't get overexcited when good things happen, and don't get sad when bad things happen.
아니 던데 이제 양 던데 직선 뭐 투대가 갑라 양 참좀 동반이 곰다 봐야나. 야 디스pengo서로.
And at the time, when you have this kind of up and down emotions, then meditating on emptiness will also help.
그래서나 아니 지금 어디네 양만 너무 따반다고 곰봐야나 양다 던데 갱에 강에 대하고 근데 따베라지 많이 받고 갈리지 양만은 도와 양만은 야치까지 여러분도 오래 삼까지 양 던데도 곰나요 뱅고서리.
Or meditating on the nature of impermanence, how things change all the time, doesn't stay one same. all the time. So it's sometimes it becomes good, but sometimes it can become bad. Or sometimes when it's bad, it doesn't stay bad all the time. It will become good. So like that. Thinking about the nature of impermanence will help also.
Tene shiva de ani ta techke nyamle dene temba se de kanje tomnge ge nyamle dan de tone kanje so ta chene nyamle che go re sa yisro.
And then the fourth one is engaging in the practice of the lifetime, on a daily basis. So these are done, with the practice of the 5 powers, right?
Shiva
Yeah.
Oje ta kandar ani so so nyamle de ya chi kono muba ge tone nima tering sendo dawanda chi konju kantab du che yi samaro go samaro.
And so then the starting with the power of determination, so he says like, you make a strong determination, to engage in the practice, of the Bodhichitta, generating the mind of enlightenment all the time, from early in the morning. So soon after you get up, you remind yourself, to generate Bodhichitta, and so have that kind of determination.
다 근데 지금 냠래 잡아라 때네 지금 섬는 저반도 도치 간지 가지고 오지. 샴니지 장적의 셈부지 토와지 째초조 로지나 달로야 보장 그 따로 있어.
And so by doing these kind of practices, when we are ready, or prepared to have loving kindness, compassion, and bodhicitta, then that's the positive results, of practicing the mind training.
갱이 ጤ상에 가래 쇼만 수수고 지금 로종은 냠래 제발라 바 잡전도 본도요나 다 콜로야 보장이 베트레스.
And so whatever practice, whatever situation it is, so if you are able to, be patient with that, and not get overexcited or sad, then, that's the measure of having trained your mind.
다 된대게 대 아니 나바들 다 두바디 다 로종 담득해야 되더라고. 다 된대고 로종 야보 용와라 아니 단 약간 내던데 제초 말인데 제요 말했어. 다좀 더 어떻게 말할까지 제요 말에 제나처럼 로종 야보 용거 말했어. 또 송도라.
So that's the 5th one, and the 6th one is the commitment, of the mind training. So the commitment of mind training, is like saying, "Oh, you're not allowed to do this. You're not supposed to do that, so forth like that." If you do that, then that kind of negative results, will appear or be experienced like that.
오케이. 어제 제다 딱고 간지 로종이 람냠네데 야보지요거나 아니 달랍잔 되던데 송고레스 내 제야요만 내 맞잖아 저런 거 좀래 통거레스 하도록.
So if you want to have a good practice of the mind training, then you should not do this, should not do that. That's what it's saying. So if you do that, then you will not get the results.
다 안에 두바 넘바데 다 로종가 담색해야 돼 봐. 로종 랍자래.
The 7th one is the Dumbadra.
넘바데 랍자.
So the 7th one is the advice of the mind training.
안다 랍자 들었다 가도 시장에서 얘기하는데 최고단데 최고다스.
So then the advice, have there like 22 advices here. So like I said before, advices are saying, what you should do, what you should do. Commitments is what you should not do, and then advices are what you should do. You should do this, you should do that, like that.
어제 두 진에 냠래 제네 간지 소소 시간라가 세면 조바명이 쇼마이나 아니 다 야고 정보이 와서.
And so by doing these kind of practices, if one is if one is able to have no regret at the time of death, then that's the sign that you have done a good practice of mind training.
오야 다양한 건 당기 단단히 질라야 돼. 지나선 건마 섬도 당셔. 먼저 딱 까마까지 이걸로 섬동에다. 야 저서 바드네던 말을 당연히 나가야 돼. 아니 고 곰티한테 담보네 마찬가지로 지금 잡셔.
So now we're going to do a little bit of meditation, okay? So you can contemplate and all those points that we just went through, like the 7 point, the mind training, thought transformation. So slowly, just spend some time contemplating on each point.
제가 까만 주세요. 다 수수 가세를 롤 샷탑탑지로. 다 제오셔는 야 포르 이나야. 가세 탑탑지.
So for about 10 minutes, we're going to do the contemplation on these points. So you can, try to have all those points, or think about all those points as extensively as possible. But whatever you can think about, all those points, and then just think or contemplate for about 10 minutes on all those 7 points.
베나로와. 안에 우주 상적을 셈치와서 나타난 느리지 삼고요. 땡이 상절람도 되는 어떤 느리지 고스. 안에 로종의 세세는 느리지 주나 임베서 느리지 소소소 셈라야지. 딩레 반로지로.
So think about what the mind generation or the bodhicitta, generating bodhicitta is, and then this is what generating bodhicitta is. This is how I generate bodhicitta. So think about all those things, and then think about or what is taking the unfortunate circumstances into the path of enlightenment. So this is how I take. So think about all the points, all the important points about how we take the unfortunate circumstances into a path to enlightenment, and then how have we generated and how have we trained our mind? How do we know how we have trained our mind? Like the measure of having trained mind. So if I have this, if I have that, if I'm able to do this, if I'm able to do that, then that is the measure of having trained the mind like that. So contemplate on those things like that.
Okay, 까마쭈인다.
For about 10 minutes.
Okay. Okay, how's it? You got something? Little bit? Any questions? Are you guys all done, or you still on the half of it? Yes, Mary?
Good morning. Thank you. Yes, ma'am. I'd like to clarify the first 2 points, because I have 3 there, and I don't know which ones.
How about other people? Are you also confused? Are you all good?
First 2 points at 7 point or the 22 commitments?
7 points.
So the first one is the preparatory practice. The second one is training in the actual bodhicitta. The third one is taking the unfortunate circumstances into a path. And the fourth one is integrating, the lifetime's practice on a daily basis. And the fifth one, is the measure of having trained the mind. The sixth one is the commitment. And the seventh one is the advice.
Okay.
And so those are the 7 points. So before you contemplate on those 7 points, first, you do the breathing meditation, right, to calm your mind, and then after that, make a strong request or supplication to your guru deity to bless you to be able to do the practice without any hindrances, and then you start the actual practice of the mind training of those 7 points.
Mm-hmm. Thank you.
Okay. The other question, Laura?
Geshe, if we were to be integrating this mind training practice into our daily practice, at what point would this particular contemplation happen if we were, for example, doing a sadhana practice?
Yeah, sadhana to Pajara. Yedamrabu Gongoina, and Tana de Najin, go to Shanju Goma, Yedam Gometea, and it king a Pachima, what the Tamja, Labja Songo to Zoyapa, Matamo Trendo Duamendo. Yamana Bena Yedam de Pena Mago Nelanganzo, and it's Tambro Semji, what the Semja Kadra Pajashana.
Yeah, so of course, when you do the actual practice of the deity, in particular deity, then that includes all these practices of generating bodhicitta. So the whole purpose of doing the deity practice is to gain enlightenment for the benefit of all sentient beings, which is the bodhicitta. And then, so in order to have the bodhicitta, then you can go through all these points of mind training, integrate it into that first, and then with that, have a firm bodhicitta in your mind, and then with that bodhicitta, then you engage in the practice of the deity yoga.
Namju Kadena, Dashi Kandena, Tamro Yovara, Teni Tinji Semjero, Tamro Tsane, that's Semjing Gomatu, Semjing Muji Malangala, Nechigom, and Teni Semjetana, Koyat Yapocharo Mendo.
So in every sadhana, there is refuge and bodhicitta at the beginning, right? So first you take the refuge, and then after that you generate bodhicitta. So in the generation of the bodhicitta, you can include all these practices, and then after you have done that, then you engage in your the sadhana or the deity yoga.
That didn't sadhana at the Nemisia Bajita, Susan Namji Penang, Yamachi Doma Tarni, no Sharabni Basachun, the Nendo Chavana. And it was Yamana Manduvangala, Yaman don't say Vijaya, Lojong and Yamlet. Start same rank to Gomiade, Gomnipa, Sempandichu.
And And so, whether you're doing the daily, the daily practice of your sadhana, on a deity yoga, or just doing a regular practice, you can just meditate on all these points on a regular basis. And the main point is to familiarize your mind, with these practices, with these thoughts.
Okay. Chetan de injimji koya choga shemadan rego martande kadi banal bena lojo tsuji mando and banan regere and bena shanjusem bena karo shanjusem joron boche tendo ndamanen ndoman tene kabla kanjin dande lo kan samadani samurata gom ran jayare.
So this doesn't have to be related with any rituals. You can do this practice on any practice you're doing. Like if you're contemplating on the 8 verses of the mind training, you can do this also. And or if you're just simply reciting the 4 lines of generating the mind of enlightenment, which is not generated. And then which is generated to not decline and so forth. So when you recite that 4-line verse, you can also apply this practice.
And Lam-rim does not Chadan Lam-rim and the Kanga Roya then the Kashi all Kanga Tete.
So in the Lam-rim, all these practice are included, right? So it's just that it's just spread it all over the place. Some are up, some are down, some are in the middle, and so it's a little difficult to actually see it as one point or one practice, right?
And the Jewa Chungu and Rini Lambeka to Chutambas at the Chadan Gumdoga.
So like in the Lam-rim, when it explains about the small scope and the medium scope teaching, it includes all those preparatory practices of the mind training.
And the Jewan Rina Jewa Chumu Yamlekagalta, take all my Shanjo Semgo with the Chadan Boshagata.
And then after that, then the preceded by those practice of the small scope and the medium scope, which includes all the preliminary practice. Preparatory practice, and then after that, comes the actual practice of generating the bodhicitta in the great scopes path.
Jedada Lam-rim that Mambo Shoja, and I Shinel Hando Matavanga, Mambo Shoja, and I shan't sem, that Benatanda, then when I showed out had Mambodos, and they call it that challenge in Dosaware. That Mambo Shoja, that Lojon Todemana Kanga Ruruchini. Social.
So in the Lam-rim, up to this point, up to that section on calm abiding, and special insight, it talks about all those, like the small scope, the medium scope, and the great scope, right? And there's so much, so many pages. We have over 1,000 pages, or several hundred pages, and all those talking about is all included in the 7-point mind training practice, in just like that, And the preparatory practice, it includes all those explanation about the small scope and the medium scope, and then in the and then followed by that, in the actual generated bodhicitta, then it includes all the explanation about the great scope, up to the section on the calm abiding and special insight.
Cheda Paji Tio Kanga and Roga, and King Shanjalam Jivakalan Tigala, Tomanya Gometa, Matabagovelando, Yako Tikala Pajipan Dundo, Tipic Kalpajara, or Conam the Mandavara.
And then even those, the practice on the special insight and the calm abiding can be included, in the practice on taking the unfortunate circumstances into a path to enlightenment, by meditating, on impermanence, or by meditating on emptiness.
The Tundum Shanjam Sam Gomatala, and that she did a Hanto Gomdo.
And then also, when you are meditating on the ultimate bodhicitta, you're also meditating on calm abiding and special insight.
Cheta Duchina cook part of Maboji Kun, Lam-rim in the part of the Kawan, that Nashima, and when is in that and the Lojon to ruin the Wajibana, the Kalandona, that Talina, when a color Chotekalam seeing as you do China, the Chatana Chote Pawaching and looks over to.
So in the Lam-rim, it is all kind of spreaded, all over, or extensively explained. But in the mind training, it's all combined into very short text. Just like you have varieties of dishes on the table, then you pick whatever you can eat. So a little bit from here, a little bit from there, a little bit, then all into one plate. So it's like that, in a very small amount. explained in the mind training practice.
제가 아니 단대양 panel 로종도 배나 뉴뉴 득샤와도 배나 양 로종 망보시라 대 망보로 바 로종 삼로 망보 따만다 강아지 퉁두 뉴뉴라고지 아니 알아서라고 배나 그리고 로자 춘주에서 배나면 다 두두고 쳇 소샤와도 메로.
And so this, I think, practice of the mind training, is in one way it is, for kind of advanced practice, for advanced practitioner. But on the other hand, people who cannot, go into all these details, so much, so many pages, and they can all combine into very short.
양 담당들 하게 배나 진대 되성다와나 제tom바도 온보 numbo 아니 셴바도 아니 온보 뜨보래래 양 온보 num보도 양 뉴뉴지가 하고 그랬어 온보 뜨보도 망보 그랬어 양 된대라게 도다 다 간지 수수 샘도 삼로던 템베고 마시샤 유이서.
But for some people, who cannot think about so much broad topics, an explanation, extensive explanation like that, then you can go into the short one. But usually, the broader one, extensive one, is more easy to understand. And that's why they say that the 3 versions of the Perfection of Wisdom Sutra, like the 8,000 verses, then this is 25,000 verses, and then the 100,000 verses. So the 100,000 verses is for more dull faculty students, and then the 8,000 verses, is for the sharp faculty students, because they can understand easily. So therefore, it doesn't need to explain so much, for them to understand. So therefore, it's very short like that. But for some people, maybe it needs. It is so difficult, to understand when it is spreaded, extensively like that. And so when it makes a short combined, then it's easier for us to understand for some ordinary people.
Anyway, 다 되네다 가지 로종 냠네데 코 좀더 들으면서 그 가디나 곰잡는 되요.
Anyway, there's no rules and regulations for mind training practice, so when to do, when not to do, and so forth like that. You can do it anytime, anywhere.
아니 배나 쇼게 배나 다저니가 처음 타고 인구자도와 산체서 공다 셴바도 겁나 이심시 디도치가 공개와 샤여서 말아.
Or you don't have to also meditate all at once. You can break them apart, like in the morning you can meditate on death and impermanence, and in the afternoon you can meditate on bodhicitta, in the evening you can meditate on emptiness, like that.
다는 저 안에 담수다 랍자도 다 남중도 파 론두시에 갑도 망치 대래도 디갑래야. 아니 소소 그걸 세미나 리마인드 해야 되는데.
And then also the advices and the commitments, you have to think about, remember them, right? What to do, what not to do, and then you can also use it, to have a discussion, with the co-practitioners like that.
Okay, Jennifer.
Thank you, Geshe. My question, the second point, which is training yourself for the 2 types of bodhicitta, I was wondering why then the instructions only include the training or the instructions on conventional bodhicitta in the equalizing and exchanging self with others. There aren't any instructions about the ultimate bodhicitta in the 7 points.
가로 대답 상처 보셈.
돈도 저기서 거기서 시험이 들어왔어. 먼저 로전 돈도면 안 나다. 진짜 람림 나도 시야라. 로전 돈도면 나라디. 나는 돈이 걸라 시험이 들어왔어.
또 무색에 람로도 제오면은 다시 단디나 다는 게 쟁행 상처럼 제고가 봤나. 아니 물론 답고 공고 세트리요. 제가 다티 되는 말 용용거다. 무색 고때는 상처된 대시 뭐 때문에 와이나.
Yeah, so this is for the more advanced practitioner. So yeah, it says like in the time, and the point on the topic on taking the unfortunate circumstance into path to enlightenment, you can when these things happen, when bad things happen to you, you can just think of them as a dream like that and so forth. So that includes the practice of the ultimate bodhicitta. So ultimate bodhicitta is just a mind understanding emptiness or the reality in conjunction with the bodhicitta. So that's called the ultimate bodhicitta.
제가 다 간지 뉴스 때 안에 그 대놈 상처고 샘다 돈이 또 시작을 하면 간지 다 되네 딘사들은 다 고고겠다. 근데 맨로
So there's, although it doesn't explain explicitly, but implicitly you can understand, about emptiness, when it talks about seeing things as a dream and so forth. So I think that's what I feel like. I'm not very sure.
Thank you very much.
Okay. Yes, Bob.
I had a question about last week we talked about the mistaken rejoicing, and Jennifer had asked because the translation in the Blue Book says mistaken rejoicing is not rejoicing in your own virtue and others' happiness. Not to do this is non-virtuous. And Geshe explained that no, it's actually not non-virtuous. It's virtuous rejoicing to rejoice in others in your own happiness and virtue. But so my question is, how does the Tibetan in the actually read to you? Is this a mistaken translation in the Blue Book? I have another book, which a different translation, and it doesn't say that at all. It just says, it doesn't say not rejoicing is non-virtuous.
So,
지수라 콜로세더라. 어디시고 다디고라 당한테 차변을 가르쳤어. 인 배우 차변을. 근데 인지도는 유도근의 유단데 마리보 민도 가래네. This is not rejoicing in your own or others' virtue or in others' happiness. And this is not to do this is non-virtuous.
니나라 가릴라서나 뭐네 콘데지 대화당 아니 개와라 가와 먹음바 아니 달라 둥아쇼나 가와 곰바네 지세라 콜로스.
So
콘데지 베나와. 내가 로조 코로나타나 다 로조 코란기다 아니 로조 돈데 베타스. 다시 대단데 베다는 대화 이데 디나라 갈랑도스나 아니 콘데지 대화당 아니 개와라 가와 먹음바치 아니 다질라 아니 다 드라텔라 두아쇼나 가와 곰바데 다 지세라 콜로레스.
람림 남도 라지나 가르쳤는데.
근데 얘네가 라다 젠지 개와당 젠지 개와라 이런 메제바 메게와당 다오 동아쇼와 이런 셰바 이런 콜로스.
네가 갈라르데.
라다 젠지 개와당 젠지 개와라 이런 메제바
제바디 미게와세레.
단데 빠지 특다다 예사 말이야.
디가 근데 디비 캔소 두서 거라는.
대대야 되잖아. 근데 단단 자세 토메 잠부 로종 된데 제가 나치나 디 특다가는 뭐도. 자세 토메 잠부 내가 나라 콘데지 대화당 개와라 가와 먹음 바라스 달라 둥아 쇼마 가와 곰바나 지사라 콜로스 제다디 먹게와 세도 뭐도.
콜로미치아스라 시소라 다 토섬 들으더니
거의 진 라다 젠지 개와당 젠지 개와라 예람 메제
셴기 겨와다 셴기 데와라 이란 미제브라 미게와다 다월 두마 중와라 이란 와타부니 다부 이란
콜로테스
데 미게오레세 데 라교 마라라지다
데데텐데 말이야 라다 젠지 개와라 예람 메제 미게와도 전 라고 삼았대.
So not rejoicing in one's and others' virtue is not necessarily, I mean, that's what it's saying in the text, right? So Tibetan text says the same thing, so it says like, not rejoicing, one's and others' virtue is non-virtue. So just because you don't rejoice doesn't mean that it becomes, non-virtue. But I don't know, maybe it's mistaken in the Tibetan text as well. I don't know, maybe there's a different meaning for that. But Geshe is looking in the different commentary by Thomas Sambo. Thomas Sambo, and in his explanation it says instead of not rejoicing in one's virtue and others' virtue, rejoicing in others one's and others' non-virtuous action, rejoicing in non-virtuous actions of oneself and other instead of rejoicing in the virtue, rejoicing in the non-virtue, is wrong rejoicing.
제가 야무데는 배나 란다신지 란다신지 개발라 이람 뭐지 버스 대파체 다 먹이면 저거 먹이면 저거 이제라 동아청마다 이라체 받아 이랑 콜로레스 나 투치 파자잖아.
Or like maybe we can read it as this is not rejoicing in your own and others' virtue, but rejoicing in one's and others' non-virtue. Is a non-virtue.
그런 에면 non-virtue action 그럼 먹이면 저.
So non-virtue, so it's so not to do this, to do this. Yeah, so if you don't do that, it's like non-virtue, not rejoicing in others, and one's virtue is in a non-virtue. So that doesn't make sense. Maybe, that's referring to, rejoicing in others and one's non-virtue is a non-virtue.
되는 되나 라다 신지 개발라 이람 뭐지 버스 대파체 대투 파체. 저 가르쳐드나 아니 달라 동아쇼에 먹이면 내가 텔레이랑 셔봐야 콜레스 먹여서 홀 막힌도나 기조에 하고면다.
So not rejoicing in one's and others' virtue, but rejoicing in one's and others' non-virtue, is the non-virtues like that, maybe something like that.
Okay. 당연히 두 파트 걸 이렇게 잡셔다. 제가 배배 틀라든 러시 자쳐 버나. 라다 진제 개발라 이람 뭐지 버스 다 먹이면 저거 아니 달라 동아쇼 와라 이랑 셔봐 이랑 콜 오세 코니파 넘버 잘 촉촉대.
And so you can say like instead of rejoicing over one's and others' virtue, rejoicing on the enemies suffering, rejoicing on enemies' suffering, it's a wrong rejoicing.
Yes, Jennifer.
I wonder if it could also mean that if instead of so if you're not rejoicing in others' virtue or happiness, suppose you're feeling you have feelings of jealousy or resentment about that, then that would be the non-virtue. So that would be separate than others. It would be another form of wrong.
제수이라 메쳐봤어 누구네다 제수이라 메쳐봤던 것도 거라 미겨 차려 말아 나다 제수이라 메쳐봤어 누구네다 거란도 겨와 제발라 안에 내와 용와라 소세 즉 차도다 내 제발은 때는 띠 미겨래서 그랬어 내 거나 dig 말했어 다 거라는 게 지도 내는 라기스 말되나 치다 내는 때 디거라
가로 이제 제세마 텔다 젤리스 라나 젤리스 채와이나 아니
미겨 차거라
재미가 와찬도 그래
Shengi Gyawada Dewala jealous Chibana. Yeah, you can say that. I mean, of course, that's correct, So instead of rejoicing in others virtue and happiness, if you are jealous in their virtue, that can be that's non-virtue, that's true. But I don't know if that's what's saying in the text itself, but yeah, that's true. Like the example they gave here, so one of the monk, when his co-monk or monk friend broke his vows, then he became happy. So he did that like that. Then that was he rejoiced in his non-virtuous action, and that became more non-virtuous action than the person who actually broke the vow.
Okay. 제다다 간지 자세 토메도 문제가 나라야 간지 콘데지 대화되잖아 가와 곰초거래 주대 공금만 거와서 뭐가지 아니 저라 마가다 둥아쳤나 아니 가와 공거다 또때 야부 말해서 그거는 다 알려도.
And so in that, the text it says wrong rejoicing is to be happy at the suffering of your enemies or to rejoice in the action performed due to ignorance and delusions. So it says rejoicing should always be directed towards the positive actions, good qualities and good conditions of others, not their misfortunes.
Okay. 제가 단데 가지 저랑 지세랑 맞춰와 때 아니 먹여서 때 좀 고고마다 때 때내 말에.
Yeah, so not rejoicing, itself, is not a non-virtuous action. That's I can be pretty sure. Yeah. And then because we are not rejoicing most of the time, so we are creating non-virtuous action all the time.
Okay. Yes, Laura.
Sorry to keep going with this question, but wouldn't our sort of general basic ignorance that we're experiencing all the time is a sort of a non-virtuous state of mind? So it is kind of a non-virtuous. We're constantly in a state of non-virtue just by our ignorance.
Oh. No, just the ignorance itself, is not you're not creating non-virtuous action by simply being ignorant. But when you create a non-virtuous action out of ignorance, then yes, it becomes virtuous action. But simply, having ignorance is not creating non-virtuous action all the time. Like when we're sleeping, we are ignorant about the, so then, we should say that, we are creating non-virtuous action in our sleep all the time because we're ignorant, right? And ignorant even about the things, the obvious things that we have in our room, right? When you're sleeping, do you see them? No, you don't see. You don't know, so. But you can, there's a saying that the sleep is neutral, right? It can be changed to a positive. It can be changed to a negative, depending on the thought you had just right before you went to sleep. And so. So therefore, just by having ignorance doesn't mean you are creating negative karma all the time. So right now we're practicing Dharma, right? Are we creating non-virtuous actions or virtuous actions? Virtuous actions, right? But we have ignorance all the time. So are we creating non-virtuous actions now? And because until we achieve state of four destroyer, instead of four destroyer, then we have delusions, we have ignorance until we achieve that. So that means like we're creating negative karma all the time. No, I don't think you have to think in that way also.
Yeah.
Yeah, so yeah, I don't think it's talking about that that if you have ignorance, you're creating negative karma all the time, and also it's not talking about not rejoicing as a non-virtuous actions.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, so other the explanation about this the advice is the 6 wrongs. It doesn't talk about that, so it doesn't talk about that being non-virtue, not rejoicing. Yeah, so also the word itself, I don't think it's wrong. The word itself, where it says this is not rejoicing in your own or others' virtue or in others' happiness. Not to do this is non-virtue. I think the way we apply it, is mistaken in some way, which I'm not sure either. But definitely, the wording is not wrong because His Holiness has taught this many times and he has gone through all these words thoroughly.
And so
we can maybe how we should apply this. It's like saying this. This is not rejoicing in your own virtue and others' happiness.
아니 저월아 동어청월아 양아치에서 두지 파자샤나 아니 곧 따단 오르도.
Rather rejoicing, in the rejoicing, to the sufferings, of your enemies, yeah, is non-virtue.
오케이. 당연도 소유하다 돼.
So we are editing it.
제가 지들 나지 고하려고 막 된들이시다 뭐 용거래 가지고.
Yeah, so sometimes the way it appears in the world, is not very clear. So that's why we have this interpretive and definitive meanings, like that.
제가 배우에 가도 나지 빼졌다 그러야 삼점 지들 나지 캔래 봐. 삼점 다치지 이마에서 뭐 용거래.
And so, like, there's just like it says, there's no form, like no form. It doesn't mean that there's no form. There's no. So you don't take it literally. So you have to understand the interpretive meaning of that.
제가 노치 고하려지나 간도 아니 슝고 고하다 말아왔지. 아니 양 소속대 도밤 담으라 뭐 사먹었지. 아니 다이나 가지 초스케면도 가지 아니 주준이 잡질라면 겨지냐 싸도 제대로.
So if we if we interpret in that way, and then it makes sense, right? You don't misunderstand, the wordings in the text, and you don't also have this misunderstanding, thinking that just because you are not rejoicing, you're creating negative karma all the time, 24 hours a day, like that.
탱아도 고고 말했지.
Yeah, I don't think that has to be like that.
제가 아니 야도 가서 ignor에 나가서 먹기가 싸워 맞춰서라고다.
And also, if we are ignorant, doesn't mean that we are creating negative karma all the time.
Okay. Anyway, that's good. Good discussion. Now, next time, that Juman and Delta, Lojo Tendumande, Yan Chilag Yongmata, Chanso, Tenning to the whole map, harder than doing that.
So that's about it for the mind training, 7-point, the mind training practices. We don't have to go through that again and again. So you already know it. You can, practice on your own. And next, we're going to move to the next section on the ritual of maintaining the bodhicitta.
You should talk about the
So from the day 20, right? 20th day 20th. But for us, maybe it's the 20th month.
They can't rocket cameo.
Better to us, right? Because we don't have to rush through all.
Okay, thank you. Now we stop.
Sanji perki jukshin ne tok tram ri rap lingji ni degyen pa de sangye jing du mikte uwagi drokun nam da jing la cher pa shuk Jetsun lame kutsen rap ten jing nam katrin le chok cher ge pa dang lo sang ten pedren me sasungi drove mun sen kak tu neg yu chig idam guru ratna mandalakam niryatayami. From my two collections, vast is space that I have amassed from working with effort at this practice for a great length of time. May I become the chief leading Buddha for all those whose mind's wisdom eye is blinded by ignorance. Even if I do not reach this state, may I be held in your loving compassion for all my lives, Manjushri. May I find the best of complete graded paths of the teachings, and may I please all the Buddhas by practicing. Using skillful means drawn by the strong force of compassion, may I clear the darkness from the minds of all beings with the points of the path as I have discerned them. May I uphold the Buddha's teachings for a very long time. With my heart going out with great compassion in whatever direction the most precious teachings have not yet spread or once spread have declined, may I reveal his treasure of happiness and aid. May the minds of those who wish for liberation be granted bounteous peace, and the Buddha's deeds be nourished for a long time. By even this graded course to enlightenment completed due to the wondrous virtuous conduct of the Buddhas and their children. May all human and non-human beings who eliminate adversity and make things conducive for practicing the excellent paths never be parted in any of their lives from the purest path praised by the Buddhas. Whenever someone makes an effort to act in accordance with the tenfold Mahayana virtuous practices, may they always be assisted by the mighty ones, and may oceans of prosperity spread everywhere. In that snow mountain encircled land, source of every benefit and joy, may Lord Tenzin Gyatso Chenrezig remain in life till samsara's end. savior of the snowland teachings and transmigratory beings, who extensively clarifies the path that unifies emptiness and compassion, to the lotus in the hand, Lord Tenzin Gyatso, I beseech, may all your holy wishes be fulfilled. You who uphold the subduer's moral way, who serve as a bountiful bearer of all, sustaining, preserving, and spreading Manjana's victorious doctrine, who masterfully accomplishes magnificent prayers honoring the three jewels, savior of myself and others, your disciples, please, please live long. Through this virtue may I swiftly, having gained Guru Buddha's state, place each and every sentient being without exception in that state. Precious supreme Bodhi mind, may it where unborn arise, and where born never decline, but increase forevermore. Mig say waiter chen rizik, dream yen pei wang ko dam pel yang, gang chen ke pei tsu gen Tsongkhapa, Lu sang rak pe jabla sowa de. Thank you, Geshe-la. Thank you, Jangchub.
Thank you, Geshe-la. Thank you, Jangchub. A few quick announcements. Very, very fortunate on Wednesday, Geshe-la is going to begin commentary on a presentation of tenets, which is explains the philosophical systems of the four main Buddhist schools. The link to the text will be up on the calendar site later today. We'll try to get that on if there was just a little issue of it, but feel free to reach out to Deborah. She's kindly offered to send it if you email her at info@kurukulla.com, but we will be getting that up there very soon. And definitely want to encourage you to look at it. And prior to the teaching, Geshe-la will be doing 8 weeks, 2 weeks on each of the four schools. So the first 2 weeks will be on the Vaibhashika or the Great Exposition School. So if you can familiarize yourself with that in advance, you'll get the most out of the class. And then on Saturday at 10, there'll be Guru Puja. And then after this class, you have the one-on-ones. Thank you very much.
Thank you, everyone. Have a good
Thank you, guys.
day.
I think Geshe-la.
Wonderful day.
Jennifer, thank you.
Thank
Bob.
you.
Bye-bye.
Thank you, Geshe-la. Thank you, Jangchub.
Thank you, Jangchub.